the time when we sue, the government or the government official, in this case Fani Willis, they show up in court and respond to the lawsuit. Guess what? She hasn't shown up in court in Fulton County. Hasn't responded to our lawsuit. She's in default. I don't know where we'd be without Judicial Watch and kind of getting a full understanding of the unprecedented targeting of Trump, the targeting of our elections, the election rigging. It's happening right now. Our election's already compromised. Trump's already been messed with. You've already been messed with. You've been denied access to your candidate if you're a Trump supporter. Even if you're not a Trump supporter, you've been denied access to the candidate you don't like so that you can debate him through your own candidate. They're messing. The judges and the Democratic prosecutors are placing their thumbs on the scale. Some judges aren't being railroaded into doing so, like Judge Cannon. Others, like Judge Merchan, are happy to engage in this political interference, even if it means upending the rule of law to do so. And then you got prosecutors like Fani Willis, who not only are engaging these political indictments, pursuing these political indictments against Trump and others for daring to challenge the election, but have their personal corruption associated with it as well. And the good news there is an upper court or an appellate court in Georgia is going to reconsider the lower court's ruling to let her stay on the case despite that crazy situation she had with Nathan Wade, where the whole prosecution has been tainted by their relationship. I mean, he had a job in part because of their relationship, and that job was prosecuting Trump. The whole thing should be thrown out, in my view. But on top of that, we've got these issues about collusion with the Biden administration and the Pelosi Congress to get Trump by Fani Willis. And Judicial Watch had been asking for documents there. And they told us they didn't have anything. Fani Willis told us she didn't have anything. But point in fact is Congress said they had something. So we sued because the documents showed that the Fani Willis's people were in contact with Congress, the Pelosi Congress. And those documents would have been responsive to our lawsuit or our FOIA request, our open records request in Georgia. So we sued, and typically I shouldn't say typically, all the time when we sue, the government or the government official, in this case Fani Willis, they show up in court and respond to the lawsuit. Guess what? She hasn't shown up in court in Fulton County. Hasn't responded to our lawsuit. She's in default. She failed to answer our lawsuit. Now, I've been at Judicial Watch for 26 years. Judicial Watch has been around for 30 years. I'm not aware ever in Judicial Watch's history of filing hundreds of open records and FOIA lawsuits that a federal agency, a state agency, or a government official has never failed. I'm not aware of that ever happening, of a government official or agency ever not showing up in court. It just has never happened before. Now, they argue with us about whether they owe us documents. That's a different matter, and they litigate the issue. But to ignore the requirement that you show up and answer a lawsuit in court, it's never happened before. And it shows to me that Fani Willis is really desperate to hide something. Incredible. She's in default, and we filed a motion in court seeking to obtain and confirm that default judgment. This is the quote: "Defendant has not filed an answer, and no answer has been served upon Judicial Watch. Defendant's answer was due 30 days after service on or about April 10th, 2024. Pursuant to Georgia law, the case automatically became in default when the answer was not filed by the due date. And it's because they government, they always get extra time, right? So you would not get extra time typically, but the government always gets extra time. So even with that extra time, further, pursuant to the code section, defendant was permitted as a matter of right to open the default within 15 days of default or by April 25th. And she still didn't show up. And this is what we sued for. In our lawsuit, Judicial Watch states that Willis's representation about not having records responsive to the request is likely false. There was a letter from the Jim Jordan showing that Willis requested assistance directly from the Pelosi committee, the January 6th committee. In fact, there were news reports showing they met with the committee. Who were seeking records of communications Willis had with Jack Smith in the House Pelosi operation. So what's going to happen next? The court is going to, I believe, quickly enter a default judgment, and I think we'll be able to get fees. The interesting thing about Georgia law, unlike federal law, is that it can be a crime directly to not follow FOIA. And I tweeted something out in this regard. Let me get up close to that. I tell you, the left hates it when I tweet out stuff like this because it's factual. And it raises uncomfortable questions for them. So what do? They attack the fact that, quote, I'm not a lawyer, and then they attack about what I look like. It's very sophisticated, their response. It can be a crime under Georgia law to violate the open records law. And I cite the law. Any person or entity knowingly and willfully violating the provisions of this article by failing or refusing to provide access to records not subject to exemption from this article, by knowingly and willingly failing or refusing to provide access to such records within the time limit set forth in this article, or by knowingly and willingly frustrating or attempting to obtain or attempting to frustrate the access to records by intentionally making records difficult to obtain or review, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $1,000 for the first violation. Or they can be subject to a civil penalty. And it goes on. So, is this a crime? I don't know if it's a crime or not. Smells like a crime to me. Maybe we'll have a better idea depending on how the court rules or what Fani Willis does in response. But this is a potential crime Fani Willis engaged in to cover up her communications with Jack Smith and the Pelosi Congress. The collusion. So I'll keep you updated on that. That's what I love about Judicial Watch. The fact that we're like doing this basic work that no one else does, that Congress isn't doing effectively or well, if at all. The media has zero interest in doing. And without Judicial Watch's leadership here, these folks would be free and clear of any accountability. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.